My name is Sarah Jackson. I'm in my final semester of the MLIS program, so I'm taking this capstone course plus my field study. I don't have very many interesting things about myself, but I can tell you about my hobbies and my work at least. Hobby-wise, I am the secretary of a local model rocketry club. So we build model rockets, generally about yay big or so, and launch them and recover them and launch them again. We have 2 launches per month down at Goddard and also in Mount Airy. As far as work goes, I work at UMBC. I help faculty prepare grants for submission so they can get funding for their research, which is pretty exciting. I like doing it, but I don't actually have experience writing the grants. I just have experience preparing the grants, so it'll be a new experience for me to actually try to write a grant this semester. As far as an ideal job, I would love to work in a museum or special collections, especially if I could do something like preserving the material or digitizing the material to make it more accessible for others to see. Probably the information institution I'm most familiar with is the Reisterstown Public Library, which was my local library where I used to live. And 3 things that are very valuable and interesting about that library is, number 1, they have a local history collection, so it's good for just the locals to find out history about Reisterstown itself, and especially Reisterstown has a very high Russian population, so the library also includes a Russian collection of Russian language books. I think that's very valuable for the locals to go and find history and be able to read in their own languages. And finally, one of the things I noticed last year is that at the Reisterstown Library, they provided meals during the summertime for school-age children who normally would receive like free meals at school, but since it's summer they can't, so I like that community service aspect of it. As far as the readings go for last week, the one I was most interested in was the Rediscovering Indigenous Languages, as I was reading about the project to find and disseminate that information about the Aboriginal languages. I definitely thought the project was worthy and valuable. The goals of seeking to reunite Indigenous peoples with their history and culture is very inspirational, and it's a wonderful way of preserving information. However, I had some problems with that the article seemed to be solely about the feel-good aspect of the project. Didn't really discuss any of the problems that would develop during the implementation. Many of the problems were mentioned, but only in passing. The most immediate concern for me is the task of finding the correct material in the various archives and special collections. Many institutions have a backlog of unprocessed or underprocessed items, so finding suitable material amongst all that, backlog and just those many institutions would be very, very challenging. Also, just finding the funds to process the backlog, or tackling the backlogs is a pretty decent problem, but I could see a grant, or even 10 grants, being needed to fund the processing and dissemination tactics. Even if the materials were processed and ready for dissemination, negotiating copyrights and donor requirements across so many institutions and collections would definitely be a daunting task. I do think the research is well suited to come up with a best practices model that any institutions could use as a guide, and then to create a consortium responsible for disseminating that information. So there will be a collective place for the various institutions to deposit the information that anybody could check out and look at. That's kind of what I thought about that particular reading, and other than that, I hope everyone has a wonderful semester, and I look forward to talking with you. Thank you.